Welcome, welcome. Welcome, folks. We'll be starting in just a few minutes. We are going to play a video as folks are coming in, so feel free to settle, grab a glass of water, something to write with if you need. So we'll just be having a video playing as people arrive, but welcome. It's good to see you.
Consider with me for a moment the world and your place in it. Your faith alive here in God's wide world.
Isolation,
rejection, injustice,
division,
poverty,
violence,
homelessness,
fear, thirst,
hunger.
The boundless beauty and love of God washing the whole world, and yet still within us.
hate,
Abuse, ignorance,
exploitation,
racism, desperation, white supremacy,
inequality,
injustice.
In the Gospels, Jesus teaches that the fully alive person is someone who loves wide. To be whole and holy, says Jesus, is to care not only about those closest to us, our friends, our family, our front yard, but what's beyond. This we believe, that our Christian faith necessarily draws us into relationship with all of our sisters and brothers, caring for the poor, the outcast, the immigrant, the hungry. This is not supplemental to our faith. It's essential. Just Faith Ministries connects and prepares people of faith for the life-changing, world-changing call of the gospel to help heal the world, and in so doing, experience a deeper faith, a more fulfilling life, and a community of care and vitality. When you walk into a Just Faith group, you find a circle of friends who have committed to spend the next 8 to 24 weeks together. They will engage in a process carefully designed to educate and spark meaningful discussions around key topics of justice in our world, as well as how to respond in love and faith.
I think what Just Faith does is helps people to discern where they have energy and passion about mission, about justice, about peace. And I think it gives them the tools to be able to go into the world and take action.
We believe in justice, and we believe that as people of faith, we need to be active in our community.
As individuals in community, we are challenged to participate in the transformation of the world.
We're always kind of looking for the same kind of community that we felt and experienced in Just Faith.
Just Faith is unique in that it's not an end in itself. The whole point of the process is a commissioning, to go out into the community to meet and join hands with those already hard at work building a more just and peaceful world. Just Faith will introduce you to hundreds of ministries, nonprofits, and projects in the United States and around the world who need people like you. Connect with them, discover your passion, and go find a first step to get to work. More than 60,000 people have come to a Just Faith group. They've discovered new possibilities for their lives. They have discovered with fresh eyes a gospel that is drawing them into new ministries, committed to the good of those who have suffered neglect and deprivation. They have also found friendships and a deeper faith and purpose for their lives. Good news, to be sure. But most important, the work of compassion changes the world. Those who need food are fed. Those who need community find friends. Those who need homes are housed. Those who need inspiration are renewed. Those who have been wronged find justice. Those who have been self-preoccupied are freed. The boundless beauty and love of God washing the whole world with us and through us. Consider with us again for a moment the world and your place in it. Your faith alive here in God's wide world.
Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. We are glad to have you here with us today. My name is Leila Oakley, for those of you who I haven't had the chance to meet yet, and I'm part of the team here at Just Faith Ministries. I'm joined today by my colleague Heidi, who will introduce herself in just a moment. Thanks for those of you who've gone down to the chat to say hi. It looks like we've got folks from North Carolina to Seattle, so we are spread all about the country, and I'm just glad to be here with you. Today, we're going to be looking at 3 tools to help each of us address the current immigration crisis that is happening across our country. So thanks for joining in. We will make this recording available to you in a follow-up email. So if you want to send this recording to someone else, feel free to pass it along. I'll also send my contact information. So if after the event today you have questions or you just want to connect, please reach out. We'd be more than happy to connect and talk about ways that our programs might serve your community. Before we jump into the 3 tools, we want to take a moment to just learn a bit more about who's on the call today. So again, thanks for saying where you're calling in from, but we'd like to get your input on kind of your reasons for coming today. So on this next slide, you'll see 4 options, A, B, C, and D. So if you'll take a moment, read those options, I'll read them aloud, and then put in the chat which one of these, or maybe there's 2 that you most identify with that you feel like best represent your reason for coming today. So A, my church or organization has experience with justice programs. I'm interested in sharing resources specific to immigration. B, I'm moved by the current immigration crisis and would like to get justice programs started with others at my church or organization. C, I'm moved by the current immigration crisis and I'm seeking a community to take action with. And D, I've begun to respond to the immigration crisis with others and would like more resources to make efforts more effective. So I'm seeing some C's, some D's, some C's. Great. We'll just take a minute to let folks come in. Some A's. Wonderful. Well, our goal today is to offer some ideas, some tools, some programs that might be a resource to you all, no matter where you find yourself on this list today. So again, thanks for chiming in down there. And then the last thing I'd like to know before jumping into the content is who's new to Just Faith Ministry. So if this is your first time connecting with us or you've never done one of our programs, we'd love to know that down in the chat. So again, if you are new to us, if you just type the word new into the chat, that would be great. Welcome, Megan. Okay, I'm seeing a few new names popping up in the chat. Wonderful. All right, Andrew, welcome. Well, it is, again, good to be here with you all. I'm going to turn over to my colleague Heidi to introduce herself and to jump into tool number 1.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks again for being here, making time to be here. And we're going to make sure to address all those needs. Welcome, especially to the new folks. We saw the range of where people might be coming into the work today. And so some of you have communities, have groups that are already formed. Some of you are maybe seeking more community or looking to expand your community. And so we're going to show you kind of a wide variety of approaches, best practices, strategies, and some of the tools that we offer that might be a good fit depending on what your context is. So if you don't hear it right away, don't worry. We're going to offer a number of things in our time to get today together. And as you have questions as well, we're going to have a Q&A portion. We're going to make sure to have at least 15 minutes or longer at the end just for Q&A. And if you want to drop questions into the chat, feel free to do so at any time. And so we'll start with our first tool, which is foundational, and I think a lot of you very intuitive. And we're going to expand a little bit more, but it's making sure to begin with relationship and dialogue. And so some of you identified in the poll that you're seeking a community to get engaged with. That might be other people who are on the call today. It might be finding people in your local community, starting to gather those people. And so whether or not you have people that you have in mind, or maybe want to expand the reach, and as the proverb says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And if you're looking for those folks to go together with, here's some, we're going to share some resources, things that we've learned through our programs and through other things that we've done that can help you with the work that you find yourself doing when addressing the immigration crisis. And so one of the first things is to always remember to begin every session to ground it in prayer, to make sure to make time for introductions and to get to know one another in a meaningful way. And sometimes that can help mean providing guidelines. And we want to emphasize this because even in cases where you already know each other, many of you have taken a Just Faith program or you're in ministries, you're in groups together. But even in the cases where you know each other, it's important to take a pause at every meeting to assess what's bringing everyone to the work. So just as we asked the question in the beginning, what's bringing you to the workshop today? It doesn't hurt to ask that question when you gather, because you might find things and start to learn things from one another. The value of personal experiences, the stories that people bring, sometimes we have no idea. The background, the lived experiences, the families, the lives that people had and that they're bringing into the room. Sometimes the things that they witnessed, the realities that are very different from our own. And so just pausing every time we're in a meeting together to let people get to know one another in maybe a deeper way even than you already do. You might have been in a Bible study or in a meeting for years together, but finding ways for that to happen in every single gathering also helps us to build resilience. When you are getting into topics that are difficult, that maybe you're going to plan and strategize, and you're going to need to maybe encounter disagreements, you're going to have to find compromises. Knowing one another better, grounding your relationships in prayer, and finding meaningful ways to talk about who we are as individuals really helps us to go farther together. And so sometimes that means having some basic guidelines that you actually revisit every single time. All of our programs start with, and those of you taking our programs, those of you who are new, every single one of our programs has a recommended community of trust guidelines. And so no need to find and put something together yourself. They've been tried over many programs over many years, refined. And so we always introduce them at the front end, whether it's one of our shorter programs or series, but it's there as a resource. And then a lot of groups will use this in other settings. And so you might have found yourself, those of you who've done Just Faith programs, bringing these community of trust guidelines into other groups, other meetings. And that way there's a common understanding for how we talk to one another, how we engage with one another respectfully and compassionately. And as we undertake difficult work, how do we give each other patience and grace as we go. And so those of you who are exploring Just Faith for the first time, know that we always begin, and the core of every program is meaningful relationship, because we come to know one another, know God through relationship. And so community guidelines is something that we always recommend, making sure that happens at the very beginning of a session. If you forget in other kinds of meetings, it never hurts to just pause wherever you are and, hey, let's all just take a breath and let's go around the room and say our names, say how we like our names to be said, and introduce each other. But this is a section structure that we recommend. And so you might find that you adopt this into other kind of meetings that you have, where you always start with your welcome opening prayer, an opportunity for individual dialogue and sharing, and then always closing out in prayer. And so for some of you, your communities have been doing this. You have groups that are going, either a Just Faith group, other justice programs. You want to be more effective. You might have this already down. In the poll, we saw some folks who are just getting started. And so how to engage in things like nonviolent communication and difficult conversations might be new. And so we do recommend, as one of the options today, a way to get started. You might want to think about a program like our Want to Talk, communication tools for divided times. It's not specific to immigration, but it can be applied to any subject matter that you might find tricky to talk about. The program goals, it starts with a model of how Jesus navigated injustice, unrest, conflict, and how we are called as Christians to respond similarly. And so it gives really concrete tools for seeking justice in any issue that you're passionate about. And those of you who showed up today, how do we talk about immigration? How do we talk about the impact that's happening on our communities, on families, on people that we love, people that we see in the news? How do we talk about it in a way that we can that we're not mired and held back by the emotions that we're being overwhelmed by, and be able to listen to one another in true connection. It also will strengthen communication skills. And so, especially in communities, if you find yourself that you're maybe in a divided community and you're looking for where do we get started, this might be the best place to start for you, is just build a foundation of communication. If you're not sure that you can come in real strong with the faith and immigration, maybe this is a good starting place for you. It could also just be a really good foundation builder and to invite more people into the work. And in that space, people are going to talk about things. They're going to try on conversations, and that could be a place where a very safe and structured place for people to try on conversations about immigration. And these are a couple of the testimonials from our participants. And so the idea of having confidence and presenting your own views in a respectful and forthright manner, I think that's something that we all want. There's a couple of books, and we'll talk about the books that are recommended in our programs later, and a little bit of the overview of all the sessions. And so some of these are very applicable to when you're talking about immigration. What happens when, how do we build empathy? What happens when we encounter anger? What do we do when we experience a no? And how do we respond to those situations? And so this might be a really great tool for you. We're going to share a couple others. If you're still thinking about like, how do I get my community started? If it's kind of a place that needs to warm up. If you're thinking about it for the first time, if you've never facilitated, maybe you've experienced one, or you've never facilitated a program yourself. One thing that's really great to know is that all of our programs, I like to describe them as plug and play kind of programs, where they're very user-friendly, simple to facilitate. There's an example of our facilitator manual. Everything is written out. It gives you the language, the timing, it has the structure, how many minutes for this, what environment to set out, all the resources, everything is linked in the packets. So if there are YouTube videos or articles, everything's in an all-in-one packet. And one of the things that's really important for any of our programs, especially when you're talking about a subject that might feel controversial, is that you're never seeking for the right words to say, because the language is already written out for you. Obviously, we want you to make the program and the facilitation your own, but it is helpful to know. And I'll just say from my personal experience, my first program that I facilitated was on racial justice, and racial justice can be a place that can be a very controversial or difficult topic to enter. And I felt very, very supported. This is long before I worked for Just Faith, as I was a volunteer facilitator. And to know that the words, the terminology, how to correct someone gently, how to invite new perspectives using just the right words is really helpful, and to have that to rely on is in our facilitator manuals. Weekly readings are also included. And so if you've never experienced, again, our programs, those of you who've had the programs before, this is something that you're familiar with. But all of our groups, all of our small group programs are recommended 8 to 14. We also have, some of you might be in our seasonal programs, which can be a larger experience, but we always recommend that small group sharing so that people can have really authentic dialogue with one another. Again, we have user-friendly, simple to facilitate manuals and participant guides. Everything's included. The core programs like Want to Talk and the ones that Leela's going to talk about in a minute, those are all about 9 sessions, about 2 hours long, and include an immersion experience. And so she'll talk a little bit more about the immersion experience and how that can be really powerful, a really powerful tool for your communities. They also work in a virtual and an in-person format, and they all include weekly readings, reflections, assignments in between to help people learn and grow as they go. Even in the Civil Dialogue, the Want to Talk program, it gives people some homework to practice those skills. So at the end of it, your small group can feel more confident in talking about and representing the issue, in inviting people into conversation to have more compassion and act more justly in their communities. And so you might be wondering, you're starting to hear this about getting a small group started, about hosting sessions, about, where might I find these people? And so here's some things to consider as you're trying to find your folks. Those of you who said, I'm looking for a community to engage with, or we want to be more effective. Some of the things that you might want to think about, the people might be right next to you and you don't realize it. People who go and do community service projects in person. If you look to your left and right, you might realize that those are the same kind of people that might actually be interested in engaging in immigration work anew. If you host a guest speaker event, whether it's on immigration or maybe another justice topic, you might look around and say these are some folks who are likely going to be interested in at least learning and then taking action around immigration. Hosting a prayer event around immigration could be a great way. Just something that is inviting, with not a whole lot of commitment. And then people, once they're in the room, you can invite them to discern, what can we do next? Would you like to come along for this program with us for this next wave of action? And another thing that's really important in any justice work, including immigration, is not to underestimate the idea of belonging before belief, and that people may not have a hard and fast way of thinking about different topics, including immigration. A lot of times people are still trying to understand and learn and comprehend. One of the things I've realized is that when I watch the news, I watch a lot of news on immigration, and not everyone has the luxury of the time to be able to do that, and so they just may not be as informed as you are. They may not be as in touch as you are, and they just might want someone to invite them in to come into a space where they can learn. And so just know that making that invitation can be all that sometimes people are waiting for, and so the people may not be as obvious who to invite in next as you think they might be, but to remember that belonging can be a really powerful foundation, and for any of the programs and for your immigration work. Leela's going to share a couple more tools in programs in the next tool, and that if you're ready for especially talking about the immigration topic specifically.
Great, thanks, Heidi. As Heidi was sharing, a really important tool is learning together, building a shared understanding, building common ground, that is a critical step to building community and taking action. And so I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, and really just want to reiterate how much how folks need to be on the same page, having the same shared understanding of the facts before them so that they can take action together. And it's in learning together that we get to discover, we get to question and build trust and a sense of connection with one another. And our programs can be a really great place to do that. It's a great opportunity to ask questions, to consider, to learn from experts, and to build community while doing it. Our programs, like Heidi said, are self-facilitated, meaning that you don't have to be an expert. That is such a gift. And that facilitators are asked to be active participants. So our programs are not set up where there is a leader or a teacher and then participants who are kind of sitting in a classroom watching. We set up our groups just like this photo shows, where folks are sitting in a circle, looking each other in the face. Everyone is on the same page, on the same level, learning together. You get to engage with a multitude of resources. So you get to look at the issue from all different angles. So whether that's immigration or another issue, you get to see, what's been happening on this issue historically, what's happening in present day, what is our kind of scriptural and theological call as we examine this issue. And so you get to kind of, if an injustice or an issue is a ball, you get to move it around and look at it from different angles and figure out how to connect, how to engage, and take action together. I want to talk for a minute about our Faith and Immigration Justice program to make sure you all are aware of this tool that's available to you. This program guides small groups in conversation around immigration, specifically looking at immigration in the United States with a focus on our southern border. In this program, groups will discern how, kind of first and foremost, how our faith calls us to respond to the issue of immigration. It will let you look at the history of immigration in the U.S. and consider, why are people choosing to come to the United States? In the program, you'll also look at a basic immigration policy, so you'll be better informed about the policies that led to where we are today and what is happening today. It'll answer questions that we hear all the time, which is basically, why don't folks just get in line? Why don't undocumented immigrants just get in line? And other questions that we hear on the news, that we hear from our neighbors, from our family. It will give you the knowledge, to speak to those questions, to answer them thoughtfully and in a way that is reflective of our history and present day. It also equips participants and facilitators to advocate for just and effective immigration policy moving forward, while also encouraging folks to build relationships with their immigrant neighbors, or if you're an immigrant yourself, to build a network and community to take action with. The program, like the one Heidi mentioned, is 9 sessions. It's designed for a small group. So you're going to connect with, 8 to 14 folks through the 9-session program. Within those 9 sessions, there's a multitude of activities, but one of those is an interactive simulation, which you can kind of see here on these rotating slides. There's also a time for an immersion in those sessions, and we give you guidance and direction on that immersion, but we also leave it open to you to plan. And the way we encourage groups to engage with the immersion is by finding a nonprofit or an advocacy group who's already taking action on this issue in your community. If you just spend a few minutes on Google or just ask around, you can find, no doubt, a few folks in your community who are engaged, whether that is holding prayer services, vigils, demonstrations, or helping the immigrant community or advocating with them. And so the immersion is a time to build relationships with people who are already engaged in this work, maybe to build relationships with folks who've gone through the immigration system and are immigrants themselves, and to build a pathway for future action. There's also an opportunity for a guest speaker to join you for one of the sessions to share from either personal experience or from their work on this issue in your community. This program can be done virtually in person. So when you're thinking about, as Heidi said, finding, who are the people who are going to learn with you, to grow with you, to take action with you, you can think both of the people who can gather in the same room with you and beyond. And we do have, I will just mention, and I'll put a link here in the chat in a minute if Heidi doesn't, a few virtual national small groups that will be starting in the new year. So if you find yourself in a community where you feel really isolated and you've tried, the approaches that Heidi mentioned of looking around and finding folks who might want to join you and you can't, I'd encourage you to join one of those virtual groups. While you won't get to be in the same room with folks, you can still find people to learn with, to ask questions with, to be curious with, and then ultimately to take some action together. So that's just a little bit about that program. I will just put on this slide, and I won't read it aloud. This is a testimony from one of a facilitator of a Faith and Immigration Justice small group. And, in this, she's just citing the different ways that people will find their way to meaningful action. Our programs, don't mandate that people in the program and do X, Y, and Z. Throughout each of our programs, we give people ideas of ways that folks are taking action on different social issues. We give ideas, prompts, connections to organizations, but we don't require people engage in a certain way. And I think the beauty of this program is it allows you to consider your own gifts, your own talents, your own connections, and to find your own way into meaningful action. I think that's illustrated here in this testimony that different people in the group found their way to meaningful connection with the immigrant community, with fighting for and advocating for immigration justice in their community. Here in Louisville is where this facilitator is located. Another program before I hand it back to Heidi that I want to just take a minute to mention, because whether you're new to us or not, you may not actually be aware that we recently launched our first bilingual program, Encuentro de Esperanza. And this program is, like I said, is our newest release program, and it invites your small group to look at foundational teachings of our Christian faith and discern how we can live more authentically in the world around us. But along the way, and I think this is really the power of this program, is it highlights the unique and diverse gifts that the Spanish-speaking community brings to the global church, celebrating a few of many traditions, teachings, faith leaders to help us understand God more clearly in the world around us. And I think this program can be a great resource for folks who want to better understand or celebrate, like I said, the traditions and teachings and individuals within the Spanish-speaking community. So it prepares participants to lead their churches in seeking justice, but it also it also helps to build relationships across language and cultural differences and even generational differences. So if you are in a community that, or if you are in relationship with folks that are English speaking and Spanish speaking, this can be a really beautiful tool to build across those lines of difference, to build relationship connection, and that those relationships and connections are a critical kind of element and component to addressing many of I think the lies that perpetuate the injustice we're seeing happen across the country. Like I said, it also explores the crucial gifts of the Spanish-speaking community. So you're going to look at theologian or St. Oscar Romero. You're going to read about different female leaders and their stories, and it's just a really beautiful way to gain a better respect and care for maybe a tradition that's not your own. This program can be done with an all Spanish speaking or an all English speaking group. It can also be done bilingually with the use of a translator, either paid or just volunteer, someone who's bilingual in your community. And I think that there's just a lot of power that comes in taking the time to engage across language barriers, to listen to one another, even if through translation, to understand one another's experiences, to learn to honor those experiences and be in relationship with one another. So I'd invite you to, if either of those programs kind of piques your interest, ask questions in the chat. I'd be happy to answer them in a moment, or consider them for tools within your community. Now, if these programs aren't a good fit, there are endless ways that you can continue to learn together and build common ground. You can view online resources. You can find documentaries on different issues like immigration. Find books. I've listed right here 4 books that we use in the Faith and Immigration program, as well as in the Want to Talk program. So let's say you're just not in a place where you can do one of our programs. I'd invite you to still gather a group of folks together, bring a resource, one of these books, a podcast, something to just to gather folks, to center the conversation and encourage the conversation. I think anything is movement forward when you're connecting, when you're sharing openly, when you're listening to one another. Those are all steps in the direction of transformation of mind, heart, and body, and movement into action. So that, Heidi, I'll turn it back to you to talk a little bit more about tool number 3.
And before I turn slide, I see some people kind of writing furiously. Rest assured, we're also going to send you the slides, and so you don't feel like you have to write everything down right before the slide goes. But we're going to continue on that same vein that Leila was talking about other resources that are available to you. And the next recommendation is to move into faith. From faith into meaningful action sooner than you might think. And so, meaning move into action in small ways, but do it before you feel like you're 100% where you'd like to be. And one of the ways, like the book recommendations that we have, one of the really great, meaningful ways that we have that is through our Acting for Justice webinars. So a lot of you have been at these webinars. We host them every month. A lot of them this year, a good number of them have been focused on immigration. And through them, we've gathered experts, people in the field, activists, lawyers who have shared their wealth of knowledge. And the other thing that they've done is they've shared resources, and we assemble all the webinars. All the recordings are available on our blog section on our website. And so both the interaction live and the event, we always recommend that people come into the event live, so you can have Q&A and you can speak with the presenters and they can respond to your questions. But the other is that we always post the recordings and with a full page of resources following the event. And so we're going to highlight a few of the ones that we've had this year. And so that means is your first piece of action can actually just be gather some folks together. Let's watch this webinar recording together. It's going to give us some things to think about, some ideas to talk about, in some cases, some actual links that take you to different places. some of the ones that we're dropping into the chat right now, the most recent one we had was on tools for response in our communities and immigration roundtable with three folks who are leading immigration movements across the country with ideas and troubleshooting of ways you can get involved in your local communities. And so some of the resources on that page include links to national networks that have local movements. A couple of the ones that they named were Immigrant Connection, which is a legal network, Showing Up for Racial Justice. And so some of the local communities that they have chapters and presence in your areas that you may not be aware of, and it might mean plugging into them and finding out what can be done. Other local entities, one of the presenters was La Casita Center, who is a nonprofit in the Louisville area. There's one in Los Angeles that I plug into that has immigration action often, which is CLUE, which is Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. And so a simple way could be gathering a group of people together, watch a webinar, and then find an organization that you want to plug into and go to existing action together. If you're looking for something a little bit more foundational, Dr. Cecilia Gonzalez-Andrew, who spoke at our Impact Celebration and a couple of our other webinars in January, gave us an excellent foundational webinar and an immense amount of resources on that page, timelines, history of immigration policy, theology articles, a lot of perspectives on there, and I highly recommend. That is a great foundational piece if you want to bring folks together for a 1 hour, 1 day event. Let's watch this webinar together, have some time for prayer, have a couple of discussion questions. But that one can be a really great one to just get the ball rolling, and let's get a common biblical understanding of what we're talking about when we talk about immigration. And so if you're still kind of discerning, is one of these longer programs right for me? We also have these free resources, our monthly webinars that we always welcome you to, and that are always posted on the website. And so we invite you to plug into those resources. The folks who are on our webinars are people that we know personally. So if you would like to be connected with them, we'd be happy to plug you in to them, to put you in touch, to share what other resources that you see that come up in other ways. But some amazing, amazing things. And so all of our programs, if you are able to do one of the core programs, the 9 sessions, the 2-hour sessions, they always include time in every session to bring people to a point of discernment by the end of the topic, the end of the series. What is my individual call to do, and what is our group call to do? What's next? And so there's a portion of every session that leaves space for discernment. And like Leila said, we don't come in and dictate, this is what you should be doing. This is how you should be responding. It's really meant to open up a space of informed discernment for your group. And so by the end of it, we hope that everyone has the experience of having discerned, identified what their own personal commitments are going to make, and then make plans for their next steps as a group. And that next step could be action out in the community. It might also be growing your network in your own organization, your church. It might mean offering an event again, offering one of the programs again, offering another 1-day seminar. So you're inviting more people into the work, and you're bringing people in, at the ground level who are maybe just starting to think about it and providing invitation. And so we've heard from Just Faith graduates around the country on what the programs have inspired them to do. I'm going to show you some pictures of, this is here locally in Los Angeles. This is a prayer walk for family unity. A lot of our Just Faith participants went to this event, and we have some that go to a weekly prayer vigil at the federal building where people and at the detention centers. And so a presence of prayer, a visible witness, can be a great next step for folks. And this is something that was inspired from doing the work in our programs. We have another graduate of our programs who volunteers to drive and accompany undocumented families and individuals to doctor's appointments and connect with the vital services. And so by becoming more informed and to find the local resources and to connect with others and doing them as well. And so I'm going to hand it over to Leila, who's going to talk a little bit about what's next and, some potential next steps, if any of these resources really resonated with you, and how we'd like to support you moving forward.
Great, thanks, Heidi. As Heidi said, we will share these resources with you. So the links to the webinars, the list of books, we will provide all that in the follow-up email. So if you want to explore those, you'll have access to them with a quick click of a button. If you want to explore one of our programs, whether that's Faith and Immigration Justice, Encuentro de Esperanza, or Want to Talk, the next step is to register. And I guess really before that is discernment. And if you want to have a follow-up conversation, again, an invitation to reach out, connect, and talk further. But once you're in a place where you know that's a resource you want to use in your community, the next step is to register. You do that on our website by filling out the Start a Small Group form that you can see in that photo. There are registration fees associated with registering, and I'd be happy to speak more about that during the Q&A if that's helpful. But I just want to mention that we have scholarships, partial and full scholarships readily available. So if you want to do these programs, or if you want to bring them to a community that doesn't have the ability to pay the full price or any portion of the price, we are always wanting to accommodate and ensure that that it doesn't create a financial burden. So just know that when you go to register. Once you register, you gain access to the materials through an online account and can begin the process of planning. That looks like selecting the leaders of the group, who we call co-facilitators. And remember, you do not have to be an expert in any of these topics, nor do you, stand apart from your group. You lead the group, but you participate fully in the learning and the growing. And then you get to spread the word. We provide you with a promotion kit that includes marketing resources, communication pieces, so that you can invite people to join you on this journey. You can look around and say, hey, do you want to come and learn with me, and invite people to join you. Heidi put in the chat a link to my Calendly, which is just a meeting scheduler. So if you want to set up a meeting, you can feel free to go ahead and do that through the link in the chat. Before we open up for a Q&A, I do want to take a moment and just pray together. So if you all would join me in prayer, I'm going to read this prayer, and then again, we'll have time for questions, which we'll moderate through the chat. God of our wandering ancestors, long have we known that your heart is with the refugee, that you were born into a family of refugees, fleeing violence in their homeland, who then gathered up their hungry children and fled into alien country. Their cry, your cry, resounds through the ages. Will you let me in? Give us hearts that break open when our brothers and sisters turn to us with the same cry. Then surely all these things will follow. Ears will no longer turn deaf to their voices. Eyes will see a moment for grace instead of threat. Tongues will not be silenced, but will instead advocate. And hands will reach out, working for peace in their homeland, working for justice in the lands where they seek safe haven. Lord, protect all refugees in their travels. May they find a friend in me, and so make me worthy of the refuge I have found in you. Amen. That prayer sort of stops me in my tracks, so I just want to let those words settle. We would be happy to answer any questions that you all have. If you have questions about how to get started or your next steps, whether that be about a program, one of the resources that we linked you to in our webinars or the books, we're here to chat with you. So if you want to head on down to the chat, you can either message one of us, either me or Heidi, privately through a new chat, or you can just send a question or comment to everyone. Yeah, okay, so Sarah's asked to put the prayer back up on the screen for a moment. So if we turn that back for Sarah for a moment. Great, thank you, Heidi.
Yeah. Oh, and this is a prayer that's included in our Faith and Immigration Justice program. So if you do start that program, you'll get to encounter that one all over again in a wonderful way.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? No worries if you don't have any. Just want to make sure we. Yeah, okay, great. Autumn has asked, what program would you recommend for middle and high school students? Great question, Autumn. So, Heidi, if you wouldn't mind putting a link in the chat to the Youth for Justice program, we do have a series titled Youth for Justice that is a program that's actually designed for middle and high school youth, and they're shorter. Each topic has 2 sessions. And they are highly adaptable because I know every youth kind of group and gathering is a little different in their structure. And there is some programming that would be relevant to this topic. So if you want to explore that link, Autumn, I would recommend starting there. And I'm happy to have a follow-up, call with you to chat a little further. I will say that we have had high school students, and definitely college students, but we have had high school students participate in our longer form programs and have found them really impactful. Those folks tend to be a little more kind of mature and engaged. But I don't want to, I would definitely not, just say because you're in middle or high school, you couldn't participate in one of these programs. I think it is possible with the right kid and the right small group to support them. A 17-year-old has the capacity for a lot of thoughtfulness and connection and engagement. So I wouldn't discount someone from participating in one of these longer form programs just because they are that age. But I will say the Youth for Justice program was designed for middle and high schoolers in mind. We recently had a student who's actually now a student at Princeton. She participated in the Faith and Poverty Biblical Response program, which is one of our longer 8-week programs as a high schooler, and found it to be really impactful. So it is possible. Anders asked here about the fee structure, and I'd be more than happy to talk about that for a moment. For our programs, there are 2 different payment options. One option is for the participants in the small group to pay their own registration fee. And that's on a sliding fee scale where folks get to self-select which tier they'd like to pay at $35, $55, or $75. Again, with partial and full scholarships available just with a click of a button. And that covers the access to the program materials. The other option is if you're part of, let's say, a church or an organization that has a budget for educational programs or something like one of our programs, then you can have the church or organization cover the cost of the program per participant at $35 per participant. Again, with partial or full scholarships available as needed. So those are the 2 options, and I'll put that information in the chat to look at it again if anyone wants to copy it or just make note of those details.
And we also just want to reiterate that we never want costs to be a barrier to participating in any of the programs. And so if an organization, not just individuals, organizations need grants or funding, we oftentimes will have organizations, like if you were in the Southern California area, we have an ongoing grant right now that will include any of these programs. North Carolina, also the state of North Carolina, has a grant opportunity right now that covers a number of these programs as well. But we also, if cost is an issue and that's the only issue, we want to work with you to make the programs possible in your community. So you just let us know, and we'll work with you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions about the programs or about any of the topics?
Maybe while the folks are thinking of a question, if it comes to them, I'll just mention that Thursday evening, so 2 days from now, I say evening, it's 7 o'clock Eastern. So depending on your time zone, afternoon or evening, we will be having a prayer service, an Advent prayer service. And for those of you who are not new to Just Faith Ministries, you may know the name Jack Dosaril. Jack's our founder, current executive director. He will be retiring at the end of this year and has crafted a really beautiful and powerful prayer service for all of us to participate in. And so if you'd like to join us, please feel free to join us on Thursday evening, 7 o'clock. You can either click that link when we send it to you or use a QR code, and you can invite others to join us. I think it's going to be a time to reflect and pause and anticipate this Advent season. So again, we'll include that in the follow-up email, and would love to see you all there. All right. Well, I am not seeing any other questions or comments. Thank you all for being here, for spending this time with us. Heidi, any final comments or thoughts from you?
No, we'll hang on and we'll stop the recording, and just in case some folks also maybe are just not in a position to type. And so if you want to come off mute and ask questions as well, we'll pause the recording and then continue to talk and support you in whatever ways are helpful.